All right, we're live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guy. Mr. Guy, how is it in Maine today?
Oh, we're doing well here in Maine. Everything's holding up just fine, Mr. Davis. Thanks for asking.
Good. I see we have a special guest, Ms. Courtney Gray. Good morning, Courtney. Where are you calling in from?
Good morning. I'm calling from my home in Pennsylvania today, and it was sunny, but we're rolling in some thunderstorms today, so our Comic Con here in town might get a little wet.
Where in Pennsylvania are you?
Wellsboro.
Wellsboro. How far is that from a place called Scranton, Pennsylvania?
It's actually, I want to say about 2 hours from Scranton.
Okay.
Hour and a half, 2 hours.
How far are you from Maine?
Maine? Oh boy. About 8 hours. My sister actually just moved to Maine. She moved to Jackman, Maine, about over a year and a half ago.
Oh, Jesus.
All right.
Yeah, that's deep Maine. That's deep into Maine territory.
Oh yes, that's deep in there.
So what's going on in Pennsylvania with CPS and you and your family?
Well, I'm going to court Tuesday for an adjudication hearing due to which it blows my mind that I'm even going back to court, considering I was just in court on July 18th and retrieved my daughter from the judge, and 5 hours later CYS was at my house at almost 10 o'clock taking my daughter, all because they didn't like the paramour I was with, my boyfriend at the time.
Oh, wait a minute. We talked to you earlier this week, huh?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what has changed, or what did you not be able to tell us the other day?
Well, what has changed, and I really hope it's a very good impact on my standpoint. I was able to take the allegations packet that was sent to me, and I was able to depict it. I was able to go through and pull out lies. I was able to pull out contradictions, and I was not only was I able to pull those out and like talk about them like personally, like feeling wise, but I was also able to pull in evidence, like actual court documentations, actual like cell phone screenshots of between me and my caseworker, because I've had issues for 8 months now where I would contact my caseworker about a question. Sometimes they were serious questions, or sometimes I was sending her things that she was supposed to be doing for her job, but I still did it anyway because I don't trust them. And I would get no reply, no acknowledgement, no reply, and nothing. So I went through all these allegations. And at this time, especially after going all through the things that they wanted me to do and complete, I'm standing here on the other side being given my daughter back. And they're still trying to pull anything they can out of thin air to make me look like I am unfit and improper. And at this point, I am quite done with it. So I was able to go through this allegations packet, like I stated, and I was able to pretty much dissect every little thing that they were trying to pinpoint on me.
Did you type it up and give it to your lawyer?
I actually typed it up. So I'm actually having some issues with my lawyer as well. So all these documentations and these court orders and these court papers clearing, like proving my paramour is perfectly fine. I sent all this stuff to my lawyer, and she replies back saying, well, are you stating that CYS is wrong? And I just said back, I was like, I'm not stating anything. I'm just pushing forth some documentations that proves them to be wrong. So instead of doing that, I went way up to the top of the chain of command. I wrote out a really good letter with all my evidence, with all my references. And I went and I actually gave it to the judge. I gave it to the judge. And I'm also involved with a lady through the DA's office for victims representative specialist. I'm involved with her because back in July, the father of my child, I have a PFA against, and he stalked me while I was at work. And I work down in my main street right here in town. It's not a big town. And I was outside, and he was walking around my workplace. And then at 12:30 at night, he was caught trying to break into my back door. So I'm involved with her
Oh, geez.
for that situation. And so the same letter, she actually came to me already asking me to write a letter for like all the psychological and mental and emotional abuse and stuff that I've acquired from this event. So I was like, well, I'm already writing her a really, really important letter. So I might as well take the letter that I gave the judge and give it to her as well. And I took those in. I wasn't messing around with mailing time, waiting around. So I just walked right into my courthouse. I was like, hey, can somebody help me, give these to these people? And they're like, oh, absolutely. We'll give them right to you, to the people, and then we'll put them in your file. I was like, oh, thank goodness. And then on the day of court, that's when I'm going to give my lawyer her packet, and I'm going to give the county's lawyer their packet. I'm not going to give them any time to wiggle in there and try to change or distort anything that I put forth.
If you wait that long, the judge may not be able to consider it. I don't know what the timelines, but you can't do something called trial by surprise.
Gotcha.
So I would definitely give it to your lawyer now.
Okay.
And let him or her give the packet to the county, and
okay.
tell her to file it with the judge and serve it on the county. But
okay.
You can't just show up and have new evidence and say, here you go. And because from your perspective, at least if you were in California, the judge may definitely exclude it, even if it were true.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't want to wait till the last minute.
Okay, thank you.
Darren, have you ever heard of that concept, trial by surprise?
I have not, no. This is the first time I've ever been through any kind of court proceedings like this in my life.
What about you, Darren? I wonder if Darren's having some internet
to it.
Courtney, I want to tell you something.
Is this not working?
Courtney, I'm involved in a trial, a family law case, custody for child support. And the judge ordered, and we had served some discovery be provided to us by the opposing side a couple of weeks ago. And we go to trial on Monday. And they just served me with their evidence. It's about that thick. And I called the guy up and said, hey, the other attorney, and said, hey, you're late on your stuff. Why don't we agree to a short continuance so I can review all that stuff? And this is what the response I got. That's the response I got. So what he doesn't know is that Monday I'm filing a motion in limine to exclude all his evidence. And I'm going to tell the judge in the motion, I asked him to continue it for a short period of time so I can review his late filed documents. And he told me basically, F you. So he's going to be surprised, because typically in family law cases, everything is, kind of loose and goosey, and if you show up late with your stuff, you show up late. But that's not how I operate. Play by the rules, play by the law. If not, I make the motion. Now, if I make that motion formally in writing, which we're finalizing today, and we will serve Monday morning and file, he is taking a huge risk, because if he wants to go to trial without evidence, guess who's going to win? Me.
Yes, yeah.
It'll be the easiest trial altogether.
Right.
Easiest trial ever. I once told this story. I was involved in a case out in another county, but the other attorney on the other side, I happened to know him. We weren't friends, but we knew each other. We actually had offices in the same city. And I did my case in chief, and I presented all of this evidence. A lot of it was inadmissible evidence, but he never objected. And then when it came time for him to do his case after lunch, what I call his case in chief, the judge said, he started off with some inadmissible evidence. And I said, objection, hearsay. And the judge looked at me and then looked at him and said, well, what's your response? And his response was, well, I didn't object to Mr. Davis's hearsay. And the judge kind of looked at him for about 5 seconds, then looked at me and said, objection sustained. In other words, his evidence didn't come in. For years, he was mad at me. He actually, he lost the case because he didn't have any viable evidence that was admissible for the most part, and I won. It's easy to win a case when you keep the other side's evidence out. So that's what's going to happen on Monday, I am hoping, in my case, and that could happen to you in your case because you're not giving people enough time to review your witnesses, your statements, your documents, your evidence. And that's called, in California at least, probably all over the country, trial by surprise. Our system doesn't allow for trial by surprise.
Okay.
For many reasons. So make sure you talk to your attorney about that.
Okay.
Now, what day is your trial?
My trial is Tuesday.
Do you have your witnesses lined up?
See, that's where I'm having a really hard time. I've had eyewitnesses.
Courtney, stop. Do you have your witnesses lined up?
I do.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yes. They're all going to be there at court, ready to testify?
I'm hoping.
Well, did you serve them subpoenas, or did your lawyer serve them subpoenas?
I've been asking my lawyer to pull forth and subpoena my eyewitnesses, and every time that we have a conversation about my eyewitnesses, she tells me bluntly, we don't need them.
Okay. So typically that is a call for the attorney, but if it turns out she's wrong, there may be an argument called ineffective assistance of counsel. Might get you reversed on appeal and have a new trial, but you don't want to be in the appeal business. So what I would do is I would independently make sure that those people are there at the court, and that somehow you they check in with the bailiff. The judge knows that they're there, and the conversation might go something like this: Judge to your attorney, Mr. Attorney, I thought you said there was only one witness. There's 10 people outside. Well, I'm not calling those witnesses, and that's when you say, Your Honor, excuse me, those witnesses are crucial to my case. If my attorney is not calling them, which she refuses to do, I request another attorney, another court-appointed attorney.
Okay.
Because I don't know about your case, okay, and this is something you should discuss with your lawyer. Okay, I'm not telling you to go against your lawyer. You got to discuss it with your lawyer.
Right.
But these people are crucial, and your lawyer is just, for whatever reason, missing the boat on this one. You got to do something, because you know what? This is your only chance. You know what? This is the most important case in your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If you lose your kids, that's you. That's on you. That attorney's going to go home, go to sleep, wake up, eat, sleep, have dinner with her kids and family, and she probably won't be thinking about you. So it's on you. It's a certain extent, you got to take responsibility. I hear a lot of people call me up and say, well, my attorney didn't do this and that and this and that. I said, well, didn't you tell the attorney? Yes, but she overruled me. And I said, did you just leave it at that? Well, yeah, I didn't think I could do anything. Okay, if you think you can't do anything, that's on you, right? But I've said many times, and it's a harsh rule that I learned in law school. It took me years to get over this. In our system of justice, ignorance is no excuse.
Right.
So it's on you. It's on your shoulders.
This happens more so than not, right?
It happens a lot. Now, here's the thing. I don't get 100% of all calls from CPS people in the country. I don't get 100% of all calls from people looking for a CPS lawyer in California. I don't get all calls from CPS CPS people looking for attorneys in Los Angeles County. I only get a small fraction of these calls. But in a lot of these calls, I hear the same story. Now, I don't know if it's happening, in other cases. I could extrapolate, but it would be mere speculation, right? Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I only get calls from people that are unhappy with their court-appointed attorney. If you're happy with your court-appointed attorney, either because they're doing a great job or you just don't know better, I'm never going to hear from you.
Right.
Right? I'm never going to hear from you. People call me up all the time and said, well, I'm having my first hearing, and my social worker has told me it's going to be at least 6 months before I get the kids back. Well, that's under the social worker strategy and plan. There are other alternatives. You could get the kid back that day or within 2 weeks or within 6 weeks.
Right.
And sometimes people tell me, oh, they told me it's going to take 12 months. Well, what are you talking about? The social worker is inaccurate, telling you something that's not true, either intentionally or negligently. But you're not going to know because you probably trust your government and think that a social worker will never do anything to hurt you.
No.
That is the big problem. That is the big problem.
I don't trust them with anything.
In this day and age, I still get clients that call me up and hire me and tell me, Vince, I never believed these people complaining about CPS and how corrupt it was until I had my own case.
Yeah.
I thought they were just child abusers and drug addicts, and to hell with them. And Darren, by the way, that's what you have to overcome to change laws. Because most people's perception who are not in the system is just what I told you.
Stigma. I say that all the time. It's the stigma that goes along with these cases that gets you screwed, because as soon as you say CPS is involved in you, people will turn their backs right on you. They won't even talk to you anymore. And I'm just as guilty. I was one of those people. I will not lie until it was my, if I heard someone had CPS, I'm like, oh, pieces of trash, like they're terrible, because I didn't believe when they would be saying these things, because it's hard to believe that the number one defender of our children is the number one culprit of kidnapping. It's so crazy to believe that they work on both sides of the fences.
Yep.
Right.
But it's the truth. It's crazy.
So Courtney, that's the number, I guess, 2 thing that I would tell you to do. And by the way, I would do that today, right after the show.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I want to tell you is we took care of your documents. We took care of your witnesses. You should probably prepare to testify. You're probably going to be a crucial witness, and you should talk to your lawyer about preparing you to testify. I have a DVD on how to testify in court. And I've been wanting to have my IT guy put it up on my website as a link so people could just go and watch it. It's about an hour long, and it tells you, some things that you would never think of, while you're testifying in court. Because in court, I call it a false reality. Real life doesn't happen in the courtroom.
No.
It's real life minus the evidence rules, minus the procedural rules. And what you have left is sometimes a bastardized version of what the truth is or what the truth should be. So there's definite things that you should know about testifying. Like the number one thing that you should know about testifying is you should never, ever interrupt the questioner, no matter who it is, no matter what your emotions are. And once they finish asking the question, you take a breath and then answer. That breath lets your brain catch up to the tricky questions attorneys sometimes ask. I wish I could give you examples, but I've seen this many, many times in practice and in person. I'll get you going with questions, making you say yes. Aren't you a female? Yes. Aren't you a mother? Yes. On and on and on. And then I say, didn't you beat your husband last night? Yes. Because your brain didn't catch up with the question. I've got you in a pattern of reflex and mental reflex, and you just fell for the trick, the okie doke.
Yeah, when all this first originally happened, like I said, when all this November 27th happened, even though the father of the child was under some very, very, very potent and heavy drugs, I was taken from the home. I was sober. I was coherent. I didn't even have anything in my system, not even a drop of alcohol. And here, this officer that came to my home told me, I know he's on drugs, but I have to take somebody. I was like, okay, maybe you should take the person that not only is not on my lease, but is on drugs in front of a child and being very belligerent and physical with a woman. And he goes, well, you left marks on his face. It's like, I did not leave marks on his face. Those are from him, and I have photos of those. Well, Mr. So-and-so is the one who called it in. So I was like, at that point, I was done. I let him take me, and I let the dominoes fall afterwards. Because like I said, after I was placed into a holding, which I wasn't even arrested, I was not fingerprinted, I was not mugshot, I was given a jumpsuit and told to go change and go sit in timeout. I get a phone call from CYS who was at my house. We have nobody responding. We've been knocking on your house, your front door now for about 20 minutes. Nobody's responding. And I told him, I was like, well, if nobody's responding, he probably overdosed. So you probably should call an ambulance and a police officer and get in that house and get that child. They did not. They called me back again. They said, is there anybody that you know that would be able to get into your house? I was like, I am the person that rents that home. I am giving you guys authorization to enter my home to receive that child. They still did not. So I told them, I was like, please call my mother. She has an emergency key to get into my home for any emergencies. That baby was in my house for over an hour and a half with her father dying in front of her. And yet they still don't talk about this. Like they don't talk about any of it. And it's very, very aggravating at times.
No,
and there's been times. So I was actually, like I said, I was arrested and I caught charges. And they wanted to hit me with child endangerment, harassment, and assault. And the father walked away with nothing. Nothing. He got to spend a nice luxurious weekend in the hospital. So I went to court for those, and the judge immediately dropped them. He goes, this does not make sense.
The criminal judge dropped it.
Yes, the criminal judge dropped them like immediately. Like they went from pending to dropped. Like they did not circumference past like the pending state. And I was in my family court hearing, and I was on stand, I was testifying, and the CYS's lawyer was asking me questions about that. And I was like, all due respect, this is not my criminal hearing, and I will refuse to answer that question. And of course, the judge nodded his head, and he goes, Miss Gray is absolutely correct. She does not have to answer that question. This is family court, not criminal court, and we can continue on with any other family court related questions. This is like I said, this is my first time.
Happen, Mr. Davis?
Oh yeah, attorneys will try to get information from you and make it any way they can.
Mm-hmm.
And if she happens to,
so can you put a stop to that?
Well, let me finish. Anything that I can or the prosecutor can get from her that will help the prosecution convict her, the more the better. Mm-hmm. Can you put a stop to it? You can object. And in California, the objection would be relevancy, because it's not related to the family law case. But since Courtney spoke up on her own, the judge, took that as an objection and ruled on it and said, yeah, prosecutors, stop asking those ridiculous questions and move on. So, Courtney, hopefully your attorney would have made that objection for you, but, sometimes they have other plans and other,
I just objected it on myself because it was actually because because I had two separate lawyers. I had one for my family and one for my criminal. And the one for my criminal, I went to her and I was on my knees begging and crying. Is there any way that you can walk that tight line that is connecting these two hearings? Is there any way that you can be my lawyer? Because she was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And she goes, I can't, I only do criminal, but I will give you some tidbits before our hearing is over. And we don't need to see each other anymore. And she did tell me that. She goes, whatever they ask you over in family court about this, you object to, because that's none of their business. That's not what you're there for. That's not what they should be asking you about. If you're in family court, they should be asking you things about the things that they're asking you to do, the things you do as a mother, the things, you do as a whole. And I took that and, and I put it in storage in my brain. And then sure enough, they asked me and I was like, I'm not answering that question. No disrespect to you at all. It's just, I was told not to, and I'm going to follow the rules like I have been my entire life.
Well, do you have any other questions for me for your trial that's coming up?
I don't really know, because like I said, I handed in that packet and it's chocked full with contradictions and picking out these lies. And it's not like just hearsay either, because I was actually able to pull in like actual proof. whether it was court documentations or written statements from a lawyer or a DA or actual like work proof. And I think you covered my actual question, which I was going to ask you, which was handing it into my lawyer here very, very soon. Probably today. I'll get a hold of her and see if I can actually email it because it's on my computer.
Yeah, I would email it to her ASAP. Tell her to file it and serve the other side, child's attorney.
The only thing that makes me nervous about sending it to her is that I did depict right in my statement. Like I wasn't like bashing her anyway, but it was informative because I did include our screenshots between me and my lawyer to the judge. The only thing that makes me nervous against her is, for one, I've been bullied by these people ever since day one. And I don't like it because I know how they're viewing me. They're viewing me as being very ignorant in the court world. And I'm not going to lie, I am. I've never been through this before. But I do know that, with every lie, there's a truth that can be brought forth. But what makes me nervous is that I did state in there to the judge that the reason why I'm coming to you first and foremost is because there's a lot of stuff that my lawyer hasn't even been mentioning. And the stuff that she hasn't been mentioning is very crucial evidence. Like, it wasn't like bashing her like in any like sort of way, but it was calling her out on not doing her job. And it makes me nervous because I don't want to go in there Tuesday and have her not do her job.
Okay, so let me say this. Maybe you didn't understand what I said. If you don't give it to your lawyer and the other side, there's a great chance, even though you gave it to the judge will not consider it. I would bet you $1 right now, even though you think you turned it into the judge hasn't seen it, hasn't read it, isn't going to read it because it's an ex parte communication. It would be improper for him to read it unless your attorney filed it and served it on other people. So you thinking that the fact that you've turned it into the judge means absolutely nothing.
Right.
It means nothing. And then you're going to leave court, after losing Tuesday, and you're going to think, well, how come the judge didn't read what I gave him? Because he's not supposed to.
Right.
Yeah, I told you what to do. You can do it or not do it. It's up to you. I haven't read the statement. I don't know, but I know one thing. If I had a lawyer, I'd be giving it to the lawyer. And if you think that you mentioned those things about your attorney, let's call a spade a spade. It's bashing the attorney.
Right.
But it's something that you have to mention because you may have a conflict with your attorney. You may need another court-appointed attorney if the attorney is not going to present relevant, important, exculpatory evidence, period.
Right.
Now, the attorney may have a strategy. I don't know what it is. I couldn't even guess what it is, but I don't know, So, that's up to you and your attorney to decide, but you can't.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Hold on.
Sorry.
That's another thing you got to do in court. Remember, you got to listen and not interrupt the person. You and your attorney have to discuss this, okay? And you have to get it to your attorney. I can't stress enough. So what you've done is all for naught if you don't give it to your lawyer and tell him to file it, because the judge is not supposed to read it. Somebody called me up yesterday who has a private attorney in doing a juvenile or CPS case in Los Angeles County. And they told me he told me his attorney's strategy. And I thought about it, and I couldn't think of any good reason why the attorney had that strategy. Then what happened, as we continued to talk, he told me more and more and more about the case, which led me to believe that the attorney he had was pursuing a viable strategy. Okay, so, I don't know anything about your case other than what you've told me, but I keep telling you, talk to your lawyer, talk to your lawyer, talk to your lawyer. I understand you have a problem with the lawyer. I understand all of that, but you know what? That's the only lawyer you have.
Right.
That person is better than nothing. You don't know enough about the evidentiary law in Pennsylvania, about the procedural law in Pennsylvania, probably the statutory law that governs your case. You have to talk to your lawyer. Now, you are always free, at least in California, to make a motion for a new court-appointed attorney. You got to have a reason and viable facts, and there's things the judge can consider and can't consider. Okay, one of the things the judge couldn't consider is, you don't like female lawyers. Well, that's not a reason to get a new lawyer. One of the things to consider is if your lawyer called you, derogatory names. That would be a problem. You may need a new court-appointed attorney. And since we're in America, this might not be viable economically. You can go hire your own attorney. You always can do that. Somebody asked me this week, well, the social worker told me I couldn't hire my own attorney. Now, that's just a flat out lie.
Yeah.
But the social worker didn't want you to hire your own attorney because she knew that the attorney you were assigned would get you to go along with everything and not have a trial.
Mm-hmm.
We can dispose of your case quick, fast, and in a hurry. Okay? So these are things that you can do if you're too close to trial to hire another lawyer.
Yeah.
You may be even too close to trial to get a new court-appointed attorney, but what you can do is if you get another court-appointed attorney, or if you get a new attorney, you can tell the judge, hey, look, I need a continuance because I got a problem, a conflict with my court-appointed attorney. Either give me a new one or I'm going to hire my own. And by the way, I need a continuance. I appeared in a case in Orange County this past week, and it was on Monday, and it was being continued to like this coming week. And the judge told me to appear in a week, and he'd go ahead and continue the case on the trial date. So some judges are what I would consider reasonable in granting continuances. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions you have for me?
I think you answered them. I'm just, like I said, I'm just nervous because I don't want my letter to create any more of a conflict that I already have with my attorney. Because it's been like pulling teeth with the people that the court has given me. Like I'll try to contact her. I'll try to call her, and I won't, just like the CYS people, I won't receive anything.
And it's just like Mr. Davis said, if it has to be said, it's said, there's no way around it. You're just nervous to have that conflict. But if,
I'm just nervous to keep getting bullied.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the fight of your life right here. This is it, this is all hands on deck, pull out the stops, whatever you got to do. So just make sure you do it and do it 100%,
Yep.
Because when you're looking in the rearview mirror and you lost, it's a pretty shitty feeling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can say that from experience. So,
yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, Courtney, if you don't have any other questions, I want to thank you for coming back on today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Sure. Darren, any comments or questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah. No, just good luck. I think she's got everything under control, and I think she'll be just fine. She's just that breathing thing's very important that you talked about also, because they're going to get under your skin. So make sure you just take a second to reset your brain. They call that. I learned that in the anger management stuff that they allowed me to take in my cases, but reset your brain so that you aren't getting caught up, like Mr. Davis says, because they're going to try to trip you up if you get on that stand. So everything he said, do it. That's all I got to say.
Will do.
But good luck. You'll be fine.
Thank you very much.
I think you're ready.
All right, Courtney, good luck. And I saw your cute little German Shepherd.
Yeah, she's being high strung right now. She's over there interrogating my cat.
Courtney, when I was in my late teens, I used to train dogs, German Shepherds.
Oh, okay.
Didn't know that about me, huh, Mr. White?
No, that's cool. I've actually been looking into doing that as well. I've spent a majority of my life around animals.
Very good. Okay. Yeah. Well, look, we're at the end of the show today, and Courtney, thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Guai. Everyone have a good Saturday, and we'll see everyone tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hey, by the way, Mr. Guai, I'm thinking about doing the weekend shows earlier.
That's fine.
I know that wouldn't affect you, but it might affect Miss Payne. But 9 a.m. may be too early for Miss Payne anyway. All
Yo,
right,
I'm
guys.
down. Whatever
Okay,
we
we'll
got
see
to
you
do, we got to do. We got to get this done. All
tomorrow at
righty.
9 Pacific time.
Okay.